Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Red Friday and welcome to the 279th consecutive Friday meeting of the East Valley Red Friday Patriots. I am Hank Nations, and I'm proud to have the opportunity to welcome all of you in attendance this morning, and those of you that are viewing this program on our YouTube site. Let me ask, if you are proud to be an American, may I hear a hoo-ah? Hoo-ah! If you're proud of America's elite armed forces, may I hear a hoo-ah? Hoo-ah! If you take pride in demonstrating support for America's 228,000 deployed warriors, may I hear a hoo-ah? Hoo-ah! And a hoo-ah to each of you for sharing in this Red Friday group's quest and to remember everyone deployed. As all of you are aware, the singular mission of this Red Friday Patriots group is to demonstrate our heartfelt appreciation and support for America's uniformed services, those men and women who serve on land, sea, and air across the globe. Their mission is to represent American ideals and interests to ensure America's security and to protect the individual freedoms that we hold dear. Speaking of freedom, we Americans hear the term freedom tossed around quite often. But what does the word really mean? If you were to turn to Webster's, you might find the definition of freedom to be the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint, or the absence of subjection to foreign domination or despotic government, or the state of not being imprisoned or enslaved. Certainly, all of those perspectives of freedom are quite descriptive, and it's our understanding of freedom that can give us insight into what motivates us so we can direct and move our lives toward what we as Americans desire. One simple scholarly description of freedom suggests that the first kind of freedom is freedom from, a freedom from the constraints of society. Secondly is freedom to, a freedom to do what we want to do. Thirdly, there is freedom to be, a freedom not just to do what we want, but a freedom to be who we were meant to be. Freedom from, freedom to, and freedom to be. Isn't that what America is all about? Regardless of one's interpretation of freedom, it has been, is, and always will be what this country was founded upon, what we are bound to uphold, and what Americans have fought and died for. But freedom is a very fragile thing. Ronald Reagan emphasized this in his inaugural address as governor of California on January the 5th, 1967, with these words: "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States where men were free." Reagan further stated that if we lose freedom here, There is no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. It is with that understanding, the consequence of the loss of freedom, that Americans stand united in our commitment to protect our freedom, regardless of cost. Many of you in attendance here today donned the uniform of the United States of America to defend her against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. Some of you today have engaged in battle in America's quest to defend our freedom and that of our allies. You know too well the cost of freedom. You know too well that America is the last stand on earth. The performing artist Toby Keith summarized quite effectively in his song, courtesy of the red, white, and blue, just how passionate Americans are about protecting our freedoms. Please focus on Toby's song, courtesy of the red, white, and blue. Would you all please stand so we can recite a pledge to Old Glory? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I would now like to turn the program over to Dick Nations.
Thank you, Hank. Carrie, was that you standing in front of the stage there right next to Toby Keith?
Yes, it was.
I promise that must have been you. You're denying it, okay. Hey, I want to take this opportunity to introduce some of our first-time guests with us this morning. We have a very long-time R.E.D member that has volunteered for virtually anything and everything that we have ever asked for, and that's Ron Fagerlin. Well, Ron's son is going to join us today, Kevin Fagerlin out of Illinois. Glad to have you with us. He is a United States Marine Corps veteran, 1995 to 1999, enlisted 0311. What was that? What is that MOS?
Infantry.
Infantry?
Yes, sir.
You were a ground pounder.
Yes, I was.
And were you stationed overseas any of your 4 years then?
I did 17 months deployed through the South Pacific all the way to the Middle East.
We're really glad to have you with us today. Hope you'll join us again on the next trip back.
Most definitely.
Thank you. Also, we have Chuck Byers. Chuck is a United States Army veteran, 1966 to 72. He was a senior combat medic, clinical nurse, and he is a guest of Mike Obermeyer. We are absolutely glad to have you with us today. Chuck, just take a second, if you will. I know that you are heavily involved with various veteran initiatives around the area. Give us insight into that, please.
Thank you. It's my first time, and good morning, fellow Patriots. I'm currently your commissioner here in Arizona for the Arizona Department of Veterans Services. So I'm under the Governor's Advisory Commission. And so I kind of keep up what's happening here in Arizona and try to communicate back to the governor so that she's aware of what's going on. I'm also the chair of Veterans Health Care, for the Vietnam veterans of America. And for you Vietnam veterans, happy to know that been fighting for toxic exposure for a long time. And we've all suffered with a lot of the Agent Orange. And we're passing on this Agent Orange to our children's children now. So we actually have 80,000 viable specimens at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. And they were going to throw them out. And we said, no, this is our legacy. You got to keep them. These are from the ranch hand study that was done in 1984 or 85. So they've been sitting up there. We're now going to transfer those specimens, and we're going to move them to Los Angeles to the VA Research Center, and they now will be studied and look at just exactly generational research from the toxins exposure that we have with the dioxin.
Chuck?
So I've been very much involved in trying to get that done. And I'm also legislative, so I kind of keep track of a lot of the bills. And I am also a member of the Military Order of the Purple Heart here in Apache Junction 2560. But thank you for inviting me to the Red Shirt Friday. And I'm going to try to get communications out to you, let you know what's happening. And I think that's a role that I would like to help you with.
Chuck, you're going to come back and give us a presentation on Veteran Health Services?
Absolutely.
You're a gentleman and a scholar.
You got it. You know, just to let you know, the Vietnam veterans are the largest living group of veterans out there. The average age for a Vietnam veteran is 74. So the silver tsunami is coming.
Thank you for joining us. Also, we have Philip Todd, a guest of Nancy Fassbender. And Philip was a United States Army commissioned officer, 1969 to 71. He was a First Lieutenant, Corps of Engineers. Glad to have you with us today. So, you've been running with Nancy for a while?
Good morning, veterans. Yes, I am one of Nancy's Rangers, or whatever you want to call them.
You're in good company.
Very briefly, in 1964, I made a decision not knowing where to go to college, and I chose to go to Norwich University in Vermont. That was one of the 7 private military, all-male military colleges at the time. And in '68, I got my degree and commissioned and went active duty of all dates, April 1st of '69. After going to officer's basic course, I was assigned to Fort Carson, and I got a staff job. My job was to analyze each company and report to the commanding officer how many AWOLs and how many people were doing different things. And I got bored and I asked for an assignment. I got a platoon on Fort Carson Corps of Engineers. And believe it or not, one of our jobs was to grade the roads on Fort Carson for the tanks to travel on. I didn't analyze what a tank needed a graded road for, but that was our job, and that's what we did. And during that time, there was a 82nd Airborne flight and training operation. They flew out and parachuted out onto Fort Carson, and they forgot to tell the paratroopers that that part of Colorado grows a cactus about 4 inches up and sometimes 30 inches in diameter. And we sat there after grading the airstrip, and we listened to these guys jump out, and they were all happy, and they did the famous tuck and roll. And they were not very excited about arriving in Colorado that way.
Philip, did you get any of those stickers in your britches?
Oh no, I sat in my Torino car parked there in camouflage. And
Well, believe me, we are so glad to have you with us today. And I will also tell you, there is a purpose for those graded tank trails. I was a tanker almost all of my career. They get you to the bushes where you can tear stuff up. That's the only thing those roads are used for.
just very quickly, my assignment in Vietnam was different than most of you, all of you probably. I was with the Corps of Engineers, and our job was to build a road. We took an 8-foot wide French-made road and turned it into a U.S. standard highway. Normally, we had about 190 men. We never shot at anybody. We were never shot at. We never had a landmine. And I was very, very lucky.
We're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Can I have a hoo-ah for our guest today? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Glad to have all of you guys with us. Did you folks have an opportunity to indulge in a donut or two before breakfasting this morning? Well, I don't know about you, but I kind of look forward to those treats every month, and I'm hoping that my dear wife has wrapped up one of those things for me to take home today. That's looking after your hubby. Thank you. By the way, you can all thank Keith Curtis and Brad Burgriff for sponsoring this month's donuts. Brad and Keith, where are you? Raise your hands. There's Brad coming out of the men's room. Keith's sitting back over there in the back. Did you wash your hands? Can I have a hoo-ah for these guys? I mean, we really do appreciate they're going to the extra mile there. By the way, the donut population is increasing, as is our attendance here. We got 72 in attendance today. It's good attendance. Now, if especially you newcomers are unaware of why we share donuts on the first Friday of each month, it's in recognition of our members who have birthdays to celebrate. And I would like to ask, will all of you who were born in the month of October please stand? Any October birthdays, please stand. Come on, there's got to be more. Keith finally got up back there. Fred is up back there. Let's give these folks a birthday hoo-ah. By the way, I just want to take this opportunity to share with you, other than the half dozen or so that are present here, I want to let these guys know we're thinking about them. Art Allen, you have a birthday for October. Richard Bartlow, Dick Broadcorb, Larry Crow, Ron Fagerlin, Bob Giants, Fred Hammond, Hank Hine, Ronald Lingle, John Stadola, James Mongrain, James Buchanan, Brad Burgriff, Keith Curtis, Cheryl White, John Evelson, Kelly Stevens, Bob Wilberscheid, Ron Black, Brent Symington, Eddie Fromm. Happy birthday to all of you. Your birthday is this month as well? Did you save at least one extra donut? Did you get a donut, Kevin? I don't eat a donut. That's where my donut should have gone, Hank. Some years back, Hank and I were vacationing in Rome, Italy. And one of the day trips that we had planned to visit was the Vatican. So we grabbed a taxi, and we asked the taxi driver to drop us off a couple of blocks near the entry to the Vatican. And while we were walking down the sidewalk toward the Vatican, we saw a coffee bar. And we decided to grab a cafe latte and sit outside and observe the people walking by going to visit the Vatican. Now, if you've never had an Italian cafe latte, you just don't know what you're missing. Well, sitting side by side on the walkway just outside the coffee shop were these two beggars. And we noticed that one had a cross in front of him, and the other one was holding a Star of David. And while we sat there enjoying our latte, we saw many people who walked by and looked at both beggars, but they only put money into the hat of the beggar sitting there with the cross. Well, about the time we were getting ready to leave the bar and walk over to the Vatican, Hank and I were absolutely ecstatic when we saw the Pope mobile come by. And even more so when the Pope's vehicle stopped directly in front of the coffee bar. The Pope just sat there watching many, many people giving money to the beggar who held the cross, but no one was giving money to the beggar holding the Star of David. Well, the Pope must have felt sorry for the beggar with the Star of David, and finally he exited the bill and he walked over to the beggar with a star, and the Pope said, "My poor fellow, don't you understand? This is a Catholic country. This city is the seat of Catholicism. People aren't going to give you money if you sit with a Star of David in front of you, especially when you're sitting beside a beggar holding a cross. In fact, they will probably give more money to him just out of spite." Well, the beggar with the Star of David respectfully listened to what the Pope had to say. Then he turned to the beggar with the cross and said, "Moshe, would you look who's trying to teach the Goldstein brothers about marketing?" You know, over the past 5 years, I've been not only amazed with, but grateful for this group of Red Friday Patriots. Your dedication to the success of our program, your enthusiastic promotion of Red Friday amongst your peers, and your steadfast allegiance to the mission of Red Friday, your stepping up to the plate when called upon for assistance, your volunteerism, and the friendships that have been cultivated amongst the group are all extraordinarily admirable and to be applauded. Regardless of scale, each of your individual contributions has been meaningful and important to the group's success. In fact, your very presence here today, your very presence consistently at these weekly gatherings is a significant benefaction to this program. Each of you should take pride in what you've contributed to the success of this meaningful program. This morning, we are surrounded by newly installed television monitors that will be beneficial not only to this Red Friday Patriots group, but to the American Legion Post as well. The hardware and the required cabling did not just magically appear. Rather, someone in this group had the foresight to recognize the need and offered to donate the funds necessary to bring the project to fruition. Substantial funds, I might add. Our Red Friday group and the Legion Post 27 are the grateful recipients of such a benefactor, a gentleman who is no stranger to our group of patriots. He's been a fixture at our assemblies for several years, seldom missing a meeting. Additionally, over the years, this gentleman has gifted many of our members with handcrafted mementos that he worked tirelessly to construct. He's truly a selfless, generous, and considerate individual that we can all have a profound appreciation for, being a fellow red shirt. Larry May, will you please come forward? Larry, on behalf of both the Legion and our Red Friday group, the absolute least that we can possibly do for this enormous donation that you have made to the Legion is to present you with a memento of our appreciation. And I would like to read this plaque to our group. It states, United States Air Force retired, presented to Lawrence Larry May, U.S. Air Force retired, American Legion Post 27 member number 002933, in recognition of his unselfish and generous contribution to the Legion and Red Friday families, October 2024. Bill, do you have something you would like to say?
I'm going to present you with my commander's pin and my commander's challenge coin.
Oh, thank you very much.
And thank you very much for your donation. I hope your group enjoys it.
I'm glad to do it.
Look this way. Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you. You know, by the way, Larry, I don't know if you've noticed it, but on those TVs, we had a plaque engraved that says, donated by Lawrence Larry May, U.S. Air Force retired, American Legion Post 27, and your member number going on all of the TVs that you have donated. Ladies and gentlemen, this morning I have the distinct honor of introducing our guest speaker, a U.S. Army veteran who most of you are by now familiar with, Nancy Fassbender. Allow me to share with you some of Nancy's endeavors and honors. Nancy served our country during the period 1975 to 1978 as a helicopter mechanic and as a crew chief. As a result of her military experience, Nancy became a strong advocate for numerous local, state, and national veteran initiatives, to include, she is an honorary member of Arizona's East Valley Ex-Prisoner of War Chapter. She's an honorary member of the Military Order of the Purple Heart Apache Junction Chapter. She's a volunteer for honoring the veterans who are interred in the Mountain View Cemetery here in Mesa, Arizona. She's an active member and ambassador of the Apache Junction Area Chamber of Commerce and recipient of the Chamber's 2022 Community Cup Award for her volunteerism. She is an organizer of the Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Celebration in 2023 and has participated in more than 60 pinning ceremonies since she became involved in this mission 3 years ago. Nancy serves as a location coordinator for Wreaths Across America. She is a Quilt of Valor recipient, and in 2020, Nancy was inducted into the Arizona Veterans Hall of Fame Society. Nancy is now serving as a board director for the society. Last year, she was the recipient of the Daughters of the American Revolution Community Service Award. This past May, Nancy was scheduled to be one of the Mesa Hometown Heroes and has been nominated to be the Grand Marshal of the 2024 Phoenix Veterans Day Parade for her service era. She is a former board member and historian for the Pinal County Veterans Memorial Foundation and recently authored a book titled My Fallen Hero. Her book is an amazing collection of stories of Pinal County residents that gave their life while serving in the United States Armed Forces. Here to offer insight about her book, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Nancy Fassbender.
Okay, how many people have gone to Washington, D.C. and seen the memorials? Can hands? How many have not? All right, I'm going to be giving you a talk about my book as well as what's in it, just a few stories. I'm just going to touch base on them. If you wanted to know more about that individual, there's more detail in my book. I'm just going to touch base on it. But this is the World War I Memorial. Now that was built for the veterans who were coming home and honoring the veterans who fought in World War I, and that was built in 1931. Then in 2001, a new memorial got built. This was unveiled in 2021. And I talked Jan Snyder into coming a couple of years ago to Washington, D.C. with me when we had a Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans event. And we saw this, and it shocked me because all I had known was the previous memorial. So we saw it, and we saw some sayings on the walls around there, but we thought they were just quotes. Well, no, they're inserts from the letters that the soldiers received, sending them to their family members. So if you have a chance, this new memorial is 2 acres long, and on the wall there are just inserts from letters that were received from the family members. And also, just about 2 weeks ago, it finally got finished. There's a shadow box now. You can see part of it on that wall. It's 38 sculptures. It's called A Soldier's Journey. And it shows the soldier saying goodbye to his wife and daughter. Then the fighting, that you'll see him go through the fighting, and then the medics when he got wounded, and then him coming home to be greeted by his family. And at the end, the little girl looks into his helmet. And what does she see? She sees World War II. And that's the shadow box. And I talked Jan into going again next March to be my travel buddy for the last Vietnam Welcome Home event. And we're going to go back and visit that one. So that's what it is about World War I. Now, in World War I, we had a soldier. His name is Matthew Rivers. How many have seen the circus when the first time when you were a kid? You were excited, you saw the circus, you saw what they did. You wanted to join the circus, didn't you? Well, this guy decided he went to Phoenix for the first time, and he saw the circus. And he sent a postcard to his family and said, I joined the circus. Now, Matthew Rivers was a Native American, and he lived in Sackatoon. And so when the circus went down to Texas, he was with them. Well, he's out walking around at night, and the local sheriff says, where's your draft card? He didn't have one. Native Americans did not have to have a draft card in World War I. So he got put in jail, and instead of fighting it, he joined the Army. And the first time he got wounded was a German U-boat. He went back and got mended up, then he went back and joined his troop. And unfortunately, he did not make it. He got shot down, and he's now standing. He has a sculpture of him in the Sackatoon gravesite right next to Iowa Hayes. So that's just a little bit of story about him. This is the World War II memorial. Now heard that there's a wading pool right in front that if you guys get tired, you can sit down and put your feet in. Well, a lot of people do more than put their feet in, but that is our memorial in Washington, D.C. for World War II. Japanese Relocation Center. We had a couple of them here. And one thing that was really interesting is that we were the 4th largest Japanese relocation center on the Gila River Reservation. And they were very prosperous, and they built schools. They even formed a council, and they had vegetables and everything. In fact, they had so much abundancy that they were giving it out to the locals. And how many people have heard about the Great Escape? All right. Did you know that the Hogan's Heroes TV show is based on that true story? It just changed the guard, Daryl Schultz, into American guards. And the prisoners were German. And they decided that they got a map, and they saw that Gila River flowed into the Colorado River, which flowed into Mexico. And then if they got to Mexico, they could go back to Germany because of Mexico wasn't in World War II. Well, they decided that to get to the Gila River that they were going to dig a tunnel. So they asked the guards for a shovel, pickaxe, a hoe, and the guards go, oh, what are you going to do with that? And they said, well, we're going to build a volleyball court. Okay. Well, they knew that the soil was clayey, more clay than itchy, and they knew that if you hammered a nail in the soil, it's like a sledgehammer, you're trying to get the nail in. So they didn't think of anything, and they gave them all the equipment that they asked for. Well, 2 days before Christmas, they decided, after they dug the tunnel was 250 feet long. That's a little bit over 2 football fields. They decided that we're going to escape. So they had been collecting rubber or little pieces of wood because they're going to build a raft, and they're going to float down that Gila River and get on their way. Well, they escaped. They went down to the river, and what did they find? No water. And they going, oh. Well, a few of them thought, oh, it's cold out there. It's desert. It's December. So they decided to hike up to the highway, flag down their sheriff, and got back into their nice warm area barracks. And they told the sheriff when they asked, well, how did you escape? We had dug a tunnel. Well, when they were digging a tunnel, I wanted to let you know another humorous thing is, how do you get rid of the soil after you dig? Well, they loaded it up in their pants, and they walked around the yard and just shook, a little bit, and spread out the soil a little bit. But anyway, they couldn't believe it, and they thought, oh, there's a hole in the fence. Well, the next day came, and the remaining ones decided, okay, it's getting cold out, and there is nobody around, and we're not doing anything, and it's no food. So they decided Christmas Eve to start knocking on the residents' homes around the area. And so most of them turned themselves in, except for one. And his name was Captain Jürgen Wagtenberg. Well, he was not going to turn himself in. He lived in a cave and everything else and walked around the streets. The locals knew who he was until he decided that he wanted to jump the train and get out of there. So they put his butt back into the prison. Now, after the war, a lot of prisoners, German prisoners, stayed here because they thought that this was a lot of better treatment that they would get here than in Germany. But Captain Wagtenberg, no, he was going to go back to Germany. And he went and became a brewery manager, and he lived until he was 94. I'm sorry, there he is. There's the picture of the Captain Wagtenberg. Okay. The Monopoly game. Has anybody heard about the Monopoly game used in World War II? Few of you, yes. But the Monopoly game was created because not created, but there was a British company that made silk maps, and you're all familiar with the silk maps because they had to have something to absorb the element that wouldn't rattle and wouldn't destroy because of the soil. So they developed silk maps. Well, how do you get it to the prisoners and stuff? Well, they decided that they had a franchise with Monopoly that they would unscrew the tokens and stick that map in one of the tokens. Well, what else do you need to escape? A compass. So they did a compass, and they detached the compass and stuck that in a token. Well, what else would a prisoner of war need to escape? How about money? So they put money in between the fake money. Okay, how about homes? Which home would be safe to stop and get a free meal or help them escape a little bit further? So they would mark the safe homes along the area where the homes were. And the Red Cross would distribute them. And how you knew you had the correct one was a little X on the Do Not Pass Go. And that's how a lot of prisoners escaped. And they claim over 35,000 Allied POWs were successfully escaped, and they estimated 1/3 was helped because of this Monopoly game. And it was not declassified, this information, until 2007, because they thought they may use it again. And that's what the Monopoly game looked like. This gentleman is Kazuo Otani, and he's a distinguished, a Medal of Honor, Purple Heart, and a Medal of Honor. And he was born in California, but his parents came from Japan. So they were in the relocation center. And he volunteered to be in a combat team, and which mostly made up on Japanese Americans that they had. And they say, I've skipped over something here, they say that out of 110,000 Japanese living in these relocation centers, 60% were American citizens, and 23 of the Japanese Americans lost their lives in World War II. And unfortunately, he was killed in action for rescuing a soldier who was wounded. And that was about him. The Korean War. Do we have anybody in Korean War? Okay. This is in Washington, D.C., and I tell you, when I first saw it, I thought it was men acting out. I couldn't believe that they were sculptures. They are so real-like. This one is a special gentleman. His name was Guadalupe Reyes. And he had 7 siblings, and 4 of them were brothers. And he was in the Korean War. And the other brothers were in the Cold War, and the other one was in Vietnam. And another one, I believe, was in World War II. But they were very, very close. And unfortunately, Guadalupe lost his life. And like I said, it gives my details more in my book. I know we're running out of time, and I tend to talk a little bit longer than I should. So I'm not giving our soldiers justice. I'm sorry about that. But the reason why this guy is also very special is because his brother was Frank Reyes. Frank Reyes was the Pinal County Sheriff for 23 years. He was a founder of the Pinal County Veterans Memorial Foundation. And he was one of them, and I will tell you a little bit more later on about what Pinal County Veterans Memorial Foundation is. Okay. Vietnam Wall. There are 58,276 names on that wall. 8 of them are women. They were nurses. The average age is 23. 23. Are there any people here that had immediate family member, like a father, mother, wife, husband, spouse, who is on that wall? May I ask who you? It was my cousin. Okay, I'm sorry for your loss. There is a special pen for your cousin's family that the Department of Defense has made. And is his parents or his sisters or brothers still alive? Sisters. Okay. If you see me later on, if you could give me the information, we order a special pen for them, okay? Now, is there any spouse, I'm going to take a moment here, is there any spouse that lost their veteran that is no longer with us, that served during the years from November 1st, 1955 to May 15th, 1975? Would you raise your hand? I want to thank you for your husband's services. How many people have received the pen of this? Have you received your pen? And you have, yeah. Okay, would you come up for a moment, please? I want to thank you for your husband's service and sacrifice. And there's a pin, and you may wear it anytime you want to. And be proud of it. And here's your, do you want your case? Want your case? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
This is what I do a lot of, and it means so much for me. How many Vietnam veterans do we have? Would you believe, because of you guys, you have helped the younger generation veterans? I know we had 58,276 names on that wall. But would you believe in the global war of terrorism, Iraq and Afghanistan, we did lose 7,000. A lot less than Vietnam. Even one life losing is terrible. But it was a lot less. You know why? Because you told the Department of Defense what you needed, what was wrong with Vietnam War. Your uniforms. You stuck out like a sore thumb most of the time. Your weapons. What did they do? They jammed them, or they did not work. Some of them even had World War II rifles. How about equipment? How about the medical department? They did not understand PTSD or anything like Agent Orange. You guys are helping everyone, just like Chuck Byer said. They're still studying. So be proud that you did serve. And I want to welcome you all home. Now, has anybody received their lapel pin? Has anybody has not received the lapel pin? John, would you please come up? John, thank you for your service and sacrifice. It really means a lot. And welcome home.
Thank you.
And here is what this pen means, and a proclamation that says Donald Trump signed a proclamation saying March 29th is National Vietnam Veterans Day. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm ready to go. We had a Lance Corporal Jose Jimenez here. He was a Medal of Honor person too, and he was from Mexico. And after his father died, his mother decided that it would be better life for him as well as his siblings to go over to the United States. So they settled in Eloy. And he went to school there, and he enlisted in the Marines. Anyway, he always ran around saying he loved his country, and he always believed in President Kennedy. And he always would say, ask not what your country would do for you, but what you can do for the country. And he lived by that. And he led his team in fighting his through the Viet Cong, and he was the fourth soldier who was killed in Vietnam that was from Eloy. And he received the Medal of Honor by President Nixon. Now this next corporal was William Patterson. Now this gentleman was a Marine, and he grew up here, and he decided that when he went to Vietnam, he had a furlough, and he went home for a while, and he met a girl while he was on leave, and fortunately, she became pregnant. He went back to Vietnam not knowing that she was pregnant. Well, unfortunately, he got killed. But that's not the rest of the story. The family decided that the girl was in high school, and the baby was coming, and it was a baby boy. And they thought, you know, to give the baby boy a chance to have a nice life, as well as the daughter to have a good life, they would put it up for adoption. And they met a person at the hospital who was a nurse that was looking to adopt a baby boy. And that person happened to be in the military family, and her husband was a Marine. So they allowed this boy to be adopted. And the boy grew up as a Marine, in the military family. And when he was 18, he decided that he was going to join the Marines, not knowing anything about his real father. I put out, when I did the research of this book, I put out information anywhere in the internet. And internet is your friend. It really is. And I put out for family members, anything. Hey, if you have any information, send to me, because I was the historian for this foundation. And right before Christmas, I received an email from a wife of this boy's that was a Marine. And I would like to read it to you. She said that she asked me if I had any information about this boy's father, because, or even a picture. And she said, I want to put a portfolio to her about the boy's father and give it to him for Christmas. And she said, I hope I'm doing the right thing. I sent her everything I had. I didn't even have a picture of him. I sent it. Now, after Christmas, 3 days after Christmas, I've been thinking about this family, wondering, okay, what happened? So I sent them an email. Here's what it said. I got a reply back. Hello, ma'am. This is Mr. Hammer. I can't thank you enough for what you have done for me. This helped put a face to a man I owe my life to and never knew, and a face for myself as well, and I know where my chin and ears came from. As a former Marine myself, I have a great appreciation for what you've done and do to honor our fallen. My wife surprised me with a complete portfolio of not only your information, but found out that his commanding officer was still alive. And I was able to speak at length about my father and the days leading up to his death. He was killed by a sniper. Ironically, I became a sniper in the Corps. I am now in a mission to find his brother, George Patterson, if he's still alive. And the family that adopted me was also Marine Corps, and it seemed a blessed destiny in my life. Thank you again, ma'am, for your quick response and efforts. It has given this Marine some peace and closure that I would never have been able to find anyone else. God bless and simplify. Now, this is what the foundation is for, and it made me feel like I was doing the right thing, that I was researching everybody that I could and put it out there so people could learn about these fallen soldiers, because each one of them is my hero. Now, okay, I forgot that picture was there. I was selected by the Department of Defense in the last year, I believe we talked about it last time I spoke, to go in March, for March 29th, to honor the Vietnam veterans. And at that time, I thought I was just going to be on the sidelines, maybe in the front row. And they asked me to pick three other veterans, Vietnam veterans, that was involved in the community. So I chose Mike Overmeyer, as well as Phil Todd over here, that he's here for the first time, to come with me, as well as Frank White. And we had a very honorable time. It was not just sitting in the front row that I had thought about. It was being able to go down to the wall and pay tribute with a wreath to the people on the wall. And it was very memorable and very special. So I was really honored. And this gentleman here was my escort. Okay. And there they are. Okay, there we go. The next one I'd like to talk to you about is the Global War on Terrorism. There is a monument in the planning. They plan to build this memorial in 2025, and they expect it to be done in 2026. And it's planned to be placed in between the wall and the Lincoln Memorial. So that's where they are going to be. I've been there, and I'm trying to vision how they're going to do it, but there is some land, I think, on the side that they could do it on. Okay. Now, this gentleman here is Hustleman Robert Martins. He's from Santan, and he was a hiker. And like I said, there's more about him in my book. And one thing I wanted to point out is that he was a doc in the Corps, and unfortunately, he got killed by rescuing a wounded soldier. And his parents decided to honor him, and he is at the Santan Mountain Park. And you'll see the flag, maybe I don't have the flag up, but there's a flag up on top that is his memorial. Okay. G.I. Joe Pigeon, that's his name, G.I. Joe. He's a homing pigeon. And in World War II, there were several animals before, service animals, like camels. You've heard about the camels, you've heard about the dogs. Well, G.I. Joe was a homing pigeon, and they used them in World War II. And at this G.I. Joe was very special, is the Allies were going to go into Italy in a little small town and capture it, and they needed air help. So they contacted the United States to go in and drop a few little bombs. Anyway, unfortunately, they went in, and that the Allies did, and they found out, oh, the Germans turned and ran. There's no Germans in this town. And it's just us and the town folks. And now the United States are going to come and bomb us. So they tried to get a hold of them on the radio. They could not get hold of anybody on the radio. So the last minute, they decided we'll try the homing pigeon. And the homing pigeon had to fly 20 miles in 20 minutes. It arrived, yes, they are fast. They arrived, the G.I. Joe arrived just in the nick of time. They were just about seconds from taking off. And he saved that town. So in Britain, they had a Dickon Medal by the Lord Mayor of London. And it's the highest award that any medal that for any bird or animal from the United States was received. Now, after the war, G.I. Joe lived in New Jersey, and he lived until he was 18 years old. So that's the story about him. Now, there's a saying on the, not saying, but the guards at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, they have a motto, and it says, soldiers never die until they're forgotten. Soldiers never die until they're forgotten. And so this is why we do what we're doing, is to honor all soldiers who are no longer with us, as well as the veterans that are with us. Is we want to keep them all alive. This is Pinal County Veterans Memorial Foundation plotline. It's in Casa Grande, right off of Pinal, where the rodeo is. We have it right by the highway. You won't miss it when you go by. And I have some information up here about our foundation. And I'll show you what the memorial is going to look like. Oh, okay. There's going to be a soldier like this on a pedestal. He is bought for, paid for. We're just waiting for the walls to go up. And he's holding the American flag to present to the family. This is what the memorial is going to look like. Now, the retaining wall is there. The flags are there. And the next project is putting up the walls. And that's what they're working on right now. And then in the walls are going to be all the names of the Pinal County fallen soldiers. And I have them all listed in my book, as well as some stories. And the reason why that book started is because I was the historian research person for this foundation. And I found out that there were stories to tell. And they said, well, why don't you write a book? Well, I just got done writing one about my family, so I thought, okay. I didn't know what I was going to get into. But it was 3 years of research and 3 years of writing my book, because I did not want you to read each page the same thing about each soldier. I gave each soldier, I believe, the honor of being able to know what their story is, how they grew up, what they did, where they fought, what battle they were killed, and where they're buried. That's what's in that book. I believe is that it? Yeah. Okay. And then when I'm closing, I always do this. Most of you have heard this poem before, but listen to it again, those who have heard it, and those who haven't, listen, and you'll find yourself in this poem. And it's called I Am a Veteran. And it's by my friend Andrea Brett, who gave me permission to put this in the book as well. You may not know me the first time we meet. I'm just another you meet on the street. But I am the reason that you live and breathe free. I am the reason for your liberty. I am a veteran. I work in the local factory all day. I own a restaurant just down the way. I sell your insurance. I start your IV. I got the best looking grandkids you ever did see. I'm your grocer, your banker, your child's school teacher. I'm your plumber, your barber, your family's preacher. But there's part of me that you don't know very well. Listen a moment. I have a story to tell. I am a veteran. I joined the service while in my teens. I traded my prom dress for camouflage greens. I'm the first in the family to do something like this. I followed my father like he followed his. Defying my fears and hiding my doubts, I married my sweetheart before we shipped out. I missed Christmas and Easter, then the birth of my son. But I knew what I was doing had to be done. I served on the battlefront. I've served on the base. I bounded up the wounded and begged for God's grace. I gave orders to fire. I followed commands. I marched in conflict in far distant lands. In the jungle, the desert, the mountains and shores, in bunkers and tents on dank earthen floors, while I fought on the ground, on the air, or on the sea, I had my family and friends home praying for me. For the land of the free and the home of the brave, I faced my demons in foxholes and caves. Then one dreaded day, without drummer or fife, I lost my arm. My buddy, he lost his life. I came home and moved on, but forever was changed. The perils of war in my memory remained. I don't really say much. I don't feel like I can. But I went home a child, left home a child, but came home a man. There are thousands like me, thousands more who are gone. But their legacy lives as time marches on. White crosses in rows and names carved in queue remind us of what these brave souls had to do. I'm part of a fellowship, a strong, mighty band of each man and each woman who have served this great land. And when old glory waves, I stand proud, I stand tall. I helped her keep her flying over you, over all. I am a veteran. And I thank you for your time. Thank you. One thing I would like to do is call out one of my brothers of the Arizona Veterans Hall of Fame. He did not say that, but Chuck Byers. He's my mentor. He's the one that got me going after my book. He told me what I could do, and he's been encouraging me all along. And I thank you, Chuck, for all the times that you have with me. Thank you.
Nancy, thank you so very much. And if you would please, may I see you front and center? You know, I have only known you now for a couple of months, but all of the activities that you are involved with, the unbelievable number of activities that are veteran related that you volunteer for and support, it's beyond me how you have that much energy to keep you going with all of these initiatives. But it's veterans like us that certainly appreciate the volunteerism that you've contributed in helping to promote veteran initiatives and veteran priorities. I want to take the opportunity to present you with this Veterans Challenge coin, and it's simply not only thanking you for your service, but thanking you for your volunteerism, and this is the absolute least memento that we can provide you for everything you do for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. I do have a couple of announcements that I would like to make prior to our departure. And one was given to me by Bill Johnson, the commander here for the Legion. Veterans Stand Down. American Legion Post 27, October 19, 2024, 12 to 4 p.m. A VA healthcare representative, community support group, Genesis Project, Phoenix VA Healthcare Systems, Arizona Veterans Benefit Counselors, VA representatives, Veteran Services Organizations, U.S. Vets of Phoenix, Arizona Department of Veteran Services, Salvation Army Apache Junction. All of these organizations will be here. Perchance any of these would be of interest to you and your particular issues. I encourage you to be present. A couple of announcements that we have here. One, Jim Kenyon, I'm sure, has already been around today requesting some volunteers for the coming year for First Friday Donuts. When we leave and turn in our badges, Jim will have a sign-up sheet here. We'd like for 2 people to sign up for each month, January through December. Your responsibility simply is to provide donuts, share that cost between you on the first Friday. Any volunteers would be appreciated on that. Secondly, Veterans Day Parade is just around the corner, November 11. We've got about 22 people thus far that have volunteered to participate in the East Valley Red Friday Patriots group for that parade. We potentially have a couple of ragtop red convertibles too, to support that particular activity. So I'll be getting out a memorandum to those that have volunteered within the week, giving you details about that particular parade. If any of you that have yet to volunteer wish to join us, we'd love to have you. 3/4 of a mile walk if you're going to be a pedestrian in the parade. Otherwise, you can ride in one of the convertibles. Wave the flags. Carrie, I'm still curious. Are you sure that you didn't stand in front of that stage? Did you get his signature? I'll trade you a challenge coin for his signature. Also, I would like to ask that upon your departure, please leave your name tags back at the greeting station. Thank you for joining us today. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and please do not forget our mission. Remember everyone deployed. Have a great weekend.